because I watch a lot of LS, you know, Nick.
See, because I don't want to turn this in, because it's really not. I like him a lot.
Absolutely. Wanted to ask you, champions like Tom Kench in the top lane, if they get a little bit of jungle help, they seem to be absolutely unkillable. What do you do? How do you deal with that?
So unkillable tops. So you're basically talking about, well, there's no champion like Tom Kench at the moment. I guess if you're talking about just like pure tanks, the closest thing would be like Sion and Maokai and Malphite and stuff like that. The key with those champions normally in top lane, there's a couple of like sneaky answers that like no one plays up there. One of the answers is Vlad, who's getting a buff soon. Vladimir is, if you view it as like rock, paper, scissors, Vlad kind of like keeps those types of picks in check because he just gets to feed off of them the entire game, if that makes sense. So you're just free to auto and just drain off of those guys. The other options are, there's stuff like Silas. Silas is another really good example of just like a bruiser that does really, really well. Champions, another good example of a champion that does really, really well. Singed loves the tank matchups because they can't really itemize into them in any way. They can't really deal with them in any way. And it just becomes Singed with Prio. So if you're noticing, there's a trend here. And that trend is if your champion requires like auto attacks and, you know, a bunch of AD items, tanks normally play pretty well. But if you can sneak in some of the AP heavy picks that actually have sustained damage, so sustained damage APs that just don't die, seems to do pretty well. The other option is some of the big scalers of top. So your Nasus would be an example. The tank can't really stop Nasus from farming, even if they wanted to. And since Nasus has the armor shred, he just kind of pushes in eventually and he starts solo killing tanks. Even under tower, he can just start taking towers if he can't kill the tank. So there are options, but the traditional, you know, I'm going to go Tryndamere, I'm going to go Fiora. You'd have to be exceptional, I think, on those champions to really feel like you're getting value. So you'd have to almost be one-tricking them. But if you've got good fundamentals, yeah, go ahead.
More when you're in the game and they sort of, though, because I mean, like from the sounds of it, I need to expand my top champion pool. But like literally,
what champ do you play then?
2 days ago. Well, I'm maining Lux mid, but I got Phil top. So before I was doing boot camp, I was playing a lot of Teemo. So I just played Teemo because I'm comfortable on him, and he just got enemy Tom Kench just had Viego just come level 2 gank, level 4 gank, and I felt like I couldn't do anything for the rest of the game then because he would just run me down. So it's
because you played Teemo.
Yeah, absolutely. But
I mean, it's just real. It's just real advice. Like you play Teemo, and if he gets a lead, then you can just put shrooms in front of him, but that's really all you can do. And yes, you're not wrong, expanding the top lane pool. But what you're doing is, and I'm not trying to be mean to you, but what you're doing is you're talking about doomsday scenarios, right? What do I do if this bullshit happens, right? Well, sometimes that bullshit that happens is, it can be insurmountable given some matchups. So if if I'm playing against you, let's use the Tryndamere example, and you're playing, we'll just use your Teemo example. If I'm playing Tryndamere and Elise comes up and I push a wave in and we dive you, there's nothing you do. Your agency has now been dwarfed. So we can go through a couple scenarios in our head on how that we could have avoided that scenario. So option one would be, okay, you know, was this dive ever avoidable? So shit like, did I take a bunch of damage before the wave crashed, right? That's the first indicator of whether or not you got yourself in trouble. Then the next thing is like, okay, I'm 100% HP and they can still dive me. That means I needed to back off, right? Or I needed to play a different champion altogether, right? So sometimes the answer is literally that simple. It's just, you pick a bad matchup, the matchup fall behind, and then you go, well, shit, I shouldn't have played this champ then. Because if I'm going to be, you see what I mean? If the result is that my agency is gone, then it's either we fucked up, like not warding, because you said it was like a gank or something, right? Like the guy gets a gank.
They invaded. We were red team. They invaded red, and I was watching it from the bush, like you said in the video. I was watching it from bush. I was pinging it. Jungler kind of just ignored it and said STFU in the chat. So I went to lane. I went up to lane. They came through the tri-bush and just they just dumpstered me under tower, and it was that was it then. I had to TP back
under tower, like
level 1. Yeah, it was kind of gross. Viego, like they just juggled tower aggro, and it was
level 1. Well, that would be one of those. If you're dying level 1 like that, that just means you were too close to the shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, really, there's no way they die. What elo are you?
Gold, like low gold.
Yeah, there's no universe where, like, unless you're getting just absolutely smurfed on, that you're getting, well, you're not getting dove level 1 ever unless you're just out of position. That's just how the game works. Like, I shouldn't say that. I have seen level 1 dives in, like, Diamond Plus, but the only time that I've ever seen that is when a team of 5, like, if you can visualize this, the only time I've ever seen a dive level 1 is when a team of 5 invades towards the enemy side, and then they spot somebody by themselves under the tower.
Right.
That's like the only time that I've ever seen any sort of that. So it sounds like what happened was you saw them start red, and instead of just like walking away and going to lane and letting them have it, you fucked around with them and died, right?
No, I went up through the top, through the lane path, and then I was stood up by the top wall. I tried to get in the bush. TK came out, and I was autoing the melee minions, and then Viego came from behind from in the tri-bush.
Which means that you fucked up because you should have warded because you just saw they started there.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Like generally these scenarios, like when people come at me with, like I said, doomsday scenarios, and I'm not trying to be mean to you, but doomsday scenarios like this, or yours is not that bad really. Yours is pretty tame, but I've had people come at me with like, what do I do if my team's 0-10? How am I supposed to fix this? Right? And I go, well, what the fuck? I don't know. There's no answer to that, right? Just like when we ask, well, what am I supposed to do when I fall behind as Timo versus Tom Kench? Spread your cheeks. I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? That's just what it's going to be. You're going to get pushed in. You're not going to ever get the damage to kill him. He's going to have prio over you. So we needed to figure out before, like, what cost the agency in that spot. Does that all this make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's literally, my understanding of Timo as a champion is it's literally on a knife's edge. And if you give it to the enemy at any point before level 6, that's it. The lane's done. So you have to be really careful. You have to play it really well. And then you press the advantage through to level 9 when you start being
when you start putting the minefield around. Yeah. And the other thing is with that, at the end of the day, it does really boil down to, like, I like to use the term knife's edge. That's a good way to frame it, because you need to be aware at all times when you play range tops, as you figured out from this conversation, when you play range tops, you cannot be getting flanked on a gank without knowing that it was coming. You can't. No. That means that there was a strategic error in either your understanding of the jungle pathing, you just weren't aware of it, or you're warding. Because wards will block some of this. So the situation you just described, the answer is when you saw them at red, first thing you do is put a ward on try, and you play very passive, like you're ready to run away.
Yeah.
Until he clears around.
I didn't have the ward because I used the ward in the red bush. That's how I spotted them, because they pulled the red buff into the bush.
Yeah, you wouldn't ward that anyways. It's a waste. You know they're there, and you're not going to stop them. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah. No, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi there.
What's up?
How are you?
I'm good.
I was just wondering, like, I don't know how to, like, formulate the question, but
Okay.
When the bootcamp started, I was gold 3, and I wanted to focus on top.
Okay.
IQ, top, and ADC. But on top lane, I have like a 50% win rate since the
Mhm.
bootcamp started, and on bot I have like 82% win rate, and I just just win streaked all the way to plat 4 now.
Okay, nice.
The thing is like my ADC role, I'm pretty confident. Like I don't need to work on it as much as I want to work on my top role, but I'm just scared that like I'll just go down again.
What
So I
does
don't
it
know what
matter
to-
though?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, but like if
But
I'm
it
just queuing
does.
top and not.
But it does. It does matter because
I get your point.
it
Yeah,
matters to you.
I guess it does.
All I can
That's
really
just-
do in these situations when this question's asked is like it does matter to you. But the thing I would say to you is, what would you rather play, top or ADC?
I would rather get better at top. If
Yeah,
that answers the question.
if you want to be better at top, like that's just you're paying to get better at top by risking.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like that's the
Yeah,
payment.
I see what you're saying.
I mean,
The
there's
thing is
other
just, like,
options. You could buy a
Yeah.
Smurf. Like I'm not Riot. I mean, maybe one day you know
I,
this
I
whole.
have a
Yeah,
level 30 account.
Maybe one day Riot picks up this boot camp and like, hey buddy,
Yeah.
hey buddy, you can't be
hopefully.
saying that shit anymore. But like realistically though, if it were me, I normally, the way I do climbs, I'm pretty transparent about it. Like I do climbs, I start low elo. If I get thrown in Smurf queue, great. If I don't, that means I'm trash and I need to figure it out, right? That's literally how I approach the game. Because now with the Smurf queue thing, it really is that. Like I did a climb last year with Ezreal, and I was just playing with subs and I wasn't winning every time. I was getting owned a lot, especially in like gold. I just wasn't carrying. And I was like, okay, well, I just got to get better at this. And so I played through it. And then eventually I was playing in diamond. And like, it was almost like my win rate went up higher and higher, even as I was like going through like platinum and whatever, because it was clicking. I was understanding the pattern.
Yeah.
My point of this story is that like sometimes it's actually pretty good. Like if you've gotten to like, say plat, say diamond, whatever. Sometimes if you want to learn another role, the play is to just get a Smurf, play from like literally play that champion.
Yeah.
And just go up the ranks. I mean, I find it to be a really fun way because I view like solo queue to diamond. Like I wasn't kidding with the analogy about like, if you get to diamond 4, you've pretty much beat the game. Like I view league kind of like that. I view the climbs because like there's different tiers. Like for a lot of people that in the audience, like they haven't made diamond at all. But like for me, like I've made diamond and higher over and over and over and over with a bunch of different shit. So for me, it's just fun to be like, hey, could I make this work? Right? Like, so
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think you have to risk.
So like I could like keep playing ADC on my main and then just like practice top on a Smurf.
Yeah. Yeah, and then
like,
once you
both
start
work on
closing
the-
in, when you start closing in on the elo, you go, okay, I guess I can play top now here.
Yeah.
Right?
Because I was like hard stuck gold with top for like 550 games, and I just like try hard, only Q Kai'Sa bot lane, and I just like win streak like 10 games, lose 1, 10 games, lose 1.
Yeah, it sounds like personality wise, top just might not be for you if that plays that way, because generally it's the opposite. But like ideally, that's how I would view it.
I like feel like it's hard to carry from the role. Like
Oh, it's definitely not.
No, I know, but I struggle with the mid and late game.
Yeah, it's a lot of being selfish, and ADCs aren't selfish. That's the key.
Yeah.
A lot of ADCs aren't selfish, and it kind of benefits them. Top laners are default, like stuck top laners, like you say, oftentimes aren't selfish enough.
Yeah. That's
because like being an ADC, you have to be around your team a lot of the time. Like, let me give you a bunch of examples. All right, we're sieging a tower. Shit's a lot better with an ADC, right?
Yeah.
Team fight, hell of a lot better with an ADC. Split push, not so great with an ADC. Think about it. Not great. Objective taking, really good when you've got an ADC there that's fed. Vayne, Ezreal, anybody who's fed on ADC, oh, thank God, we got to take these objectives. Now let's switch it over to top, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to play top lane. I got to kill a guy by myself. Right?
Yeah, but that's what I like about top lane. Like it's
absolutely.
I'm 1v1. Like
I'm
you're
just
better
saying.
than the other guy.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, what winds up happening is that when mid and late game rolls around, players have. It's honestly, that's the difference between just players and league. Top lane is more of just like a, I'm gonna sound like such a dude. It is the fucking Chad role, period.
Yeah.
Top lane's the Chad role. You get camped, you have to deal with it. No one fucking fixes it. No support is patting you on the ass and giving you little shields, right? You fix it. You're about to get you're about to get dove.
But at the same
you
time,
can ward.
my support doesn't run it down in top lane.
No, true, true. And you don't get gimped on XP. But you have to also recognize that at the end of the day, when it comes time to play mid game, you'll find that the top laners that you remember are the top laners that are very selfish. And it's like, wow, this guy is he is on his own mission, right? But then when you look at ADCs, you don't really, that's not something you want to say about an ADC. You don't want to say like, this ADC is just on his own, right? Like it doesn't make any sense for the role. Yeah. So what I would say is that like, yeah, make a new account, play through the ranks or whatever, or have that Smurf, play up to the level that you're playing at with ADC, and just take the feedback that I'm giving you in terms of like, that's player tendency. Like every top laner wants to group more than they should. Every top laner doesn't want to go for the dive.
Like, like I hate the Aram shit in the mid lane.
Every top laner doesn't want to dive. That's the big one. They want to split, but top laners want to split, but none of them want to go under tower and actually try to put a game away.
Yeah, I just think it's like you need to learn how to recognize when you're able to dive.
Yeah.
Like you just have the mentality and like confidence for it.
Yeah.
I guess.
So that's what I would say. Thank you so much. What's up, my Nasus dude? You still living in Korea?
I am over in Korea still, but here's the thing: the guy that I'm gonna get my account from wanted to gouge me $50 on the account, so I'm playing on NA for now.
Okay.
ping. But the climb in Korea was going well enough. I was learning a lot. It was cool. Top lane battles. I was watching your Prio video, the champion selections. This boot camp, I've basically switched from Nasus to Alawi because you said that this champ, like it can potentially carry in a lot of circumstances. I came into a game the other day where I was playing Alawi into Nasus. You know, this I know the matchup, etc. I want to be in this guy's face. You know, I'm trying to put him away. Like I'm driving him to his tower. But as Alawi, if you hit your E while he's under the tower, you can just give it to him the entire time. Like he's not farming.
Yes.
What do you do when, or like obviously ward. Like, you know, the bushes, whatever. When your mid lane is something that's not going to get prio, like a Vigar, and your Jax jungle lost double scuttle, and he's ran it down. He's 8 kills deep, and you're just trying to give it to him, the Nasus. And you're 2 levels up on him because that's what you're doing. But Talon keeps the enemy Talon or the jungler constantly in your lane. It's a 1v3 lane. In your experience, what did you have to do in your struggles when that would happen?
So essentially what needs to happen is that, yeah, you said ward, but it takes a different level of awareness to recognize the problem before it happens. You can't see Talon come up to you and be like, oh, there's a Talon here, fucking stupid, right? Like,
right.
That's normally the thing I think that most players, like even myself when I was starting out, that's what most players will do, is Talon will just kind of appear in your lane and you will be flabbergasted, right? It's like the biggest insult ever. How dare this guy go to top lane? And how does he win so hard that he's able to come up here and mid still loses? I think the next layer of how we play the game is recognizing that might happen and then structuring your positioning. Either you've got to like cheat back into the brush when you see him take off, or you've got to like, if you've got your ult and everything, maybe you pull back and try to do a 2v1 or something. It really does boil down to like how aware are you? Because the situation you're describing, it's one thing to respond to it after it happens. It's another thing to get in front of it, right? It's like bad PR, right? Like you have to get in front of it before it becomes a problem for you. And in the case of Alawi, it's not like you roam, right? It's not like you leave lane and run around and try to deal with the problem yourself. Although I will tell you that can be an option, by the way. So let's say that you're dealing with the Talon situation, right? Because this is another option. You can literally, the next time your teammate dies and you're top, you just start pinging that you're on the way to mid, and then you just go to mid.
and like just switch lanes with him like permanently, or is it just kind of like a temporary
until the problem is fixed?
Okay.
And then you have to be willing, yes, because what's going to happen? He gets 3 kills, then what?
Well, then at that point, like it's like you just as a top laner, you got to be willing to, who's got the biggest peen in the room, go and take that guy down.
Exactly.
Like, that's usually how I view it.
Exactly. So the way you would do it with Alawi, obviously you can't just gank, but what you can do with Alawi is you could say, okay, you're killing my mid lane 4 times. That's fine. You're going to be tough to beat, but I would rather come to your lane now with tentacles, set them up, and try to kill you and get your bounty. And then I'm, like you said, biggest dick in the room, right?
Raj.
Now it's like that snake game. You know what I'm talking about? Where the snakes eat each other? Yeah.
So you just, depending on situation, you wouldn't be in, like, because the way I've been playing it a lot of the time is I've been side laning a lot. Like, Hullbreaker's been a very viable option, especially coming back to NA. Not like constantly grouping, just split pushing, trying to like, get those 1v1 kills constantly, 1v2 if I can get them. That's how I've been trying to play it. And that's the reason I switched from Nasus to Alawi, because I found that I was scared of reaching those breaking points and just limit testing it to the max. I've been playing games where like I've won solely because of lane pressure, and I'm still feeding. I'm like 2-8, but with good CS and constant like pressure, it opens up the map a lot.
You mean with Alawi?
Yeah, with Alawi.
Yeah, because she's always got the threat of killing you anyways. That's the reason. If you're side laning and like 3 people come down and you hit a good ER, like you can just kill everybody regardless. So what I would say is the adjustments that I make is, I mean, one, you've got to be kind of a macro wizard. When you know the problem is coming, you have to ward, and you have to start kind of doing that like soul read. Like, I know that I'm about to get roamed on by 3 people. I just can feel it. Like they have nothing else to do. Why wouldn't they come up here and try to fuck me?
Gut check right there. It's like either I'm pulling out or like I'm gonna try and limit test it. Right.
Yes.
There.
Yes.
Make the decision.
You just kind of hover back, like you just kind of do a float in a bush or something. And if they still come after you, then you just try to E-combo it. But the other option that I utilize a lot, especially in lower elo, I find this to be really good, is that like if I see someone that's out of control and they're in mid, because that's the example you used, and it makes sense because he can come up to you, is that if I see that my wave's pushed in, I see mid die, and I'm really trying to win, the guy's like 3 or 4 kills up, I'm like, well, I'm just going to go to mid right now. I'm not going to let him do this. I'm going to try to kill him myself before he starts spilling over to the side lanes.
Right. Okay.
Because there's a good like flow of the game where it's like that guy is eventually going to get bored, right?
Right.
Like he's going to move. So like if you can kind of interdict that beforehand, it really helps. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it really does. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for being a supporter all these years and everything. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, it's been great. Thank you. Bye.
Hello.
How's it going?
Hey, thanks for letting me up here. I had a couple of quick questions. First of all, you rated my one trick is Mundo, and you rated him super, super low on the tier list, and I have like a 46% win rate over 24 games. I'm wondering if I should just like move on and play someone like Mundo, or I'm sorry, like Wukong, or like Garen, someone a little bit easier with a little more carry potential, or if I should just stick with Mundo and keep playing the rest of my 50 games.
So, are you playing top or jungle?
Top.
Top shouldn't be getting you that bad of a result. I'm a bit of a Mundo hater, but I really don't think that he's like, I don't think that he's like just trashed here like jungle. I just don't, I don't like him right now.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the change to his passive with the immune to CC is a very significant thing. But it depends on how well you're farming and how consistent you are about playing your breakpoints. So for example, if I'm playing Mundo, I know that his ult nowadays feels a lot weaker to me. I don't know what it is. But his old one felt a lot stronger. So knowing that, like he seems to scale even or not, or even if not better than the last one though. So what I would be working on is making sure that we're getting big CS numbers and then playing through the mid game like safely without, you know, every time we use our ult, we don't just die for that. But like, if you want to drop him for a Wukong, you will probably immediately see better results with the Wukong than Mundo, because Mundo kind of requires you to just kind of farm with Q for too long, and you can't really take advantage of anything ever. Like, so okay, you hit a Q, and then like you've got to wander up to them in slow motion and like hit them, and then land another Q. And then, like, they probably are just going to stat check you anyways. If it's, like, a Riven or a Tryndamere, they might just beat the shit out of you for this. So, like, I just... That's why I rated them the way I did, is because I just... It's too slow. I feel like I'm... I've been using the Squidward meme lately, where he's looking out the window and SpongeBob and Patrick are playing and having fun, and they're like just hee, and Squidward's just looking all mad and shit. Like, that's how I feel for the first 5 minutes of the game. I talk about this a lot. After, like, you know, after the minions meet in the middle of the map, you've got about 5 minutes to basically invest in crypto before you regret that you did or didn't, right? I mean, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, really, because what else do you have? Because after a certain point, if you can't be the guy in the room, that's a problem. Reliably at a certain timing in solo queue, that's a problem. So, like, if I play Tryndamere, I guarantee you at 6, I'm going to dive somebody. Probably. Right? The odds are pretty good.
Interesting. That's
Yes.
That's a really great way to look at it. I didn't think about it that way. Like, if you're not the problem in the first 5 minutes, like what are you doing? Like, you have to wait and scale? Like what are you doing?
Yeah, it's an agency issue. It's a I don't know what else. I can't view the game any other way other than I also, I don't know if you ever play any like shooters, like this free-for-all modes.
I get sick when I play FPSs.
Well,
so
so a
not really.
classic. Well, I'll give you an example. So if you play like free for all, like a game like Halo, normally the guy that wins the free for all is the guy that gets to 50 kills first. Okay.
Yes.
So like, if you get to 50 kills first, you win. Well, oftentimes there's plenty of guys in those free for alls that get to 50 kills first that die a lot, right? Like they just die. They just take fights everywhere. It's like they're just looking hungrily, like looking around, trying to get something done from the beginning of the game to the end, right? Obviously, feeding a bunch in League doesn't really make sense. But what I'm trying to say, is that they are as soon as they can get a kill, they're trying to do it. As soon as I can get the impact, because a shooter doesn't work like League. You get a couple kills in League, oh my God, you might as well be Godzilla walking around in this game.
Yeah.
So the problem with Mundo really does hinge on, I can't guarantee you that I have a strategy to get fed. The reason why people do like Camille top with Grasp, Ignite, Teleport is because they know I will kill somebody soon, eventually. I'll kill him at 6. I'll kill him with my jungle gank. If that comes, I might TP behind somebody and get the shutdown. It's areas of reliability that other champions do not have, and that's where you get in trouble. So like, that's why if you look at the tip-top ELOs, you'll see a bunch of stuff that's very like decisive at the top.
Yeah.
You'll see these these Aurelia players and these Riven players and these for mid lane you'll see a bunch of Silas guys and a bunch of LeBlancs and just stuff that's like that's gonna get the money when they need to get it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And one more quick thing, if I might.
Go ahead.
You said in one of your videos that running, like if you're not gonna get something really good out of running TP, you should just run Ignite. And that's an area I'm struggling with, is like where to TP properly. Do you have any advice on like looking for places to TP?
Behind people.
Okay, got it.
That cool. Literally. So like, imagine Summoner's Rift, right? So imagine where the minions are all meeting. Just draw a line. So like imagine all the minions meet in the middle. So you draw like a football line, right? Like a line of scrimmage from corner to corner. All right, now imagine that top's pushed in, mid's still in mid, and like top, you're pushed to like tier 2, and mid tower's still up and bot tower's still up. So that line of scrimmage would be to like top tier 2 and would kind of curve and would be in mid, and then it would go to the outer at bottom.
Yeah.
So what you need to recognize is like if you ever have a fight over that line of scrimmage and you've got a TP, you've got a ward behind that fight, that's where you want to go.
Perfect.
You don't want to TP. You do not want to TP on top of shit. Like very rarely. You'll see it sometimes in high elo because it's like they see a dive coming, so they TP to block it. That's a good example.
Yeah.
But really what you're looking for is you're looking for TP flanks. Always think about how when I show up, you're not showing up to like exist in the fight. You're showing up as like a big dramatic, like I'm behind you. You didn't know I was here and I'm going to kill somebody because I'm here. And you have to go through me now. There's just no way around it. As opposed to what players do where they TP onto the fight and then they waddle after somebody, right? But like if you do that, that's obvious. Everybody sees the TP channeling in.
Yeah, exactly.
Good players are just going to walk away from the shit. But you look for like really dirty angles, like enemy team fought over a minion wave. That's another classic one. They you know how like your bot lane will chase over a minion wave to get a kill?
Yeah.
That's when you would TP on the minions.
Got it.
Because they have to go back through them.
Yep, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Good luck. Okay, 4.
All right. So basically, I had a bunch of questions on my phone, and I didn't want to ask all of them because it's way too many. Hey, so this question is basically so there is technically, like, people watch a lot of higher elo gameplay, and I watch a lot of LCK, Korea. There's a way they play the game, right? But should I be trying to play like that, or should I try and play in a way that takes advantage of more so the stuff, fiestas and that goes on in my elo? Should I be trying to achieve, that 9 CS per minute, 10 CS per minute, always shoving lanes and all that, or should I try and play more chaotic or something that just fits my elo better?
So first off, I want to be really clear to everybody that's in here. This is a good question, by the way. The big deal with pro scene, you guys need to view pro scene, LPL, LCK, all this stuff. These things are adverts for Riot. All right. First and foremost, they're adverts for Riot. Now, I'm not flaming any of the pros. They're better than me at the game. But what I'm saying is that like those games play nothing, absolutely nothing like a real game of League of Legends and solo queue play. They are completely disconnected from the reality of the game. So you're going to see shit in pro that makes no sense at all. You're going to see picks that should never be played by a solo queue player ever. You'll see stuff like Azir. You'll see stuff like Lucian top. You'll see shit that just doesn't need to happen. You'll see like Lilia jungle and shit like that. There's just like really like low agency picks in solo queue. So why am I saying this is because the question that you asked was, do I play like these guys or do I play? What you should play like is you should play like what is optimal given what you're recognizing the player tendencies to be. So like if I go into a game and I start doing my trade stance and putting my work in and I see that my opponent is super passive and is eating every ability, then yeah, I'm going to farm the noob, right? And that's just how it's going to be. If your opponent's playing like he has a brain and those fundamentals look like they're on point and he's not doing anything wild or wacky, then we're going to be respectful. We're going to hit our CS. We're going to, we're going to do everything that we can to play like it's a pro game. Right? Yeah. My point is that in a game of League of Legends, no one, like in a game of pro League of Legends rather, there's not a Katarina running around with 10 fucking kills.
Yeah.
So it's not the same game. It's not even in the same ballpark. So when you know that, I think the game unlocks a little bit more. And this is one of the reasons I'm not a pro hater or anything. This is just a reason that I've never really had that big of an interest in the pro scene. If you notice, I don't do a lot of pro facing content. I don't analyze pro matches very often. I kind of keep my thoughts to myself. I don't make bullshit takes based on my solo queue experience, right? These guys are playing a game where they have a coach who picks comps. The players play champions at about 85 to 90% level most of the time, unless it happens to be one of their comfort picks. But they all don't feed, and they all play for certain timings. They all play with comms, and they all play together, right? That is not League. What League is there's about 10 morons. 2 of the morons are on their main champion. 6 of the other morons, they're on like their second, third, fourth tertiary picks, right? And then there's one moron who's mad because his mom hit him. And then there's another moron that's like, I don't know, he's trying jungle for the first time. This is not the same game. This is not even the same. Well, yeah, it's not even close. So knowing that, I would say the long story short here is that play what is optimal given the information that you have in front of you. It's never going to look like pro, like ever.
Yeah. And just because that made me think of something, because I watch a lot of LS, you know, Nick. Of
course,
you mentioned him a bit on like when you were with Adrian Riven, and basically because you know how he has certain suggestions and all of that, but a lot of his commentary, as far as I understand, is geared towards, you know, pros and all of that. Would you say for a solo queue environment, taking what LS says maybe with a grain of salt is a good idea, or like, you know, or should I treat? Because I treat you as very like your kind of word as law when it comes to solo queue, because you know you've obviously lived and breathed it quite a considerable amount. But obviously, like I said, LS has some gearings towards pro play, so you know.
So he argues from the standpoint of everybody plays right.
Yeah.
Right. That's what he aims to do with his content. I think that I see, because I don't want to turn this in, because it's really not. I like him a lot. I like what he does, and I like what he brings to the space, and I think he's, you know, his opinions make sense. Like if I'm watching him talk about like pro play or whatever, if I'm watching him talk about like really high elo, it's not like his arguments are just based in just pure ridiculousness, right? But there definitely is a large following and you know, this is to his benefit, of course, but there's a large following of people in there that have no business even listening to what he has to say and applying it to their games. Yeah. It's just real. Again, it's not even to knock him. I could give a shit either way, personally. I mean, I'm glad anybody in the space that's making good money doing this shit, I am happy for him. I think it's great. I'm just saying that, like, I look at a lot of the stuff that he puts out and I'm just like, well, if I was a silver player, and I don't even think what I'm saying would even offend him, because he's one of the people that when he started coaching, he was just like, after coaching low elo players for enough, he's like, I don't want to coach this shit, right? It's just, it didn't interest him, right? Yeah. He just sees them make mistakes. He doesn't really get that excited and correct low elo mistakes. He doesn't get that excited about that, working with those types of players. And that's great. But yeah, in my opinion, I think that he has some good ideas. So for example, like, he's coined the term like cheater recall. I think that's cool. And I think there's a lot of stuff that, like, you could always look at itemization, for example, and get some ideas from him. He's talking about this futures market stuff and utilizing that in games. I mean,
love that.
Yeah, there's concepts that he brings to the table that are valuable. But yeah, like nitpicking mouse movement for like a silver player and like pretending to know the nuances about like this wave shoves, that wave shoves, whatever, all this bullshit. Like, this does not mostly apply to people in that caliber, because they just got to, for right now, a lot of them is just like, listen, dude, we got to get you playing ranked games, or hey, we got to get you off fucking LeBlanc because you have no business playing this champion ever. I don't give a damn what LS said about a cheater recall. You can't even, you see what I'm saying? You can't even combo. Like, it doesn't make any. Bro. Yeah, like there's no, and like I said, I really want to be clear. Like, this isn't a flame LS thing at all. I think that both elements are needed, and I think that it's to me, it's like what I do. I just feel like I'm just a guy. I'm playing street ball over here, and in the case of League of Legends, street ball is the thing that 99% of the people play.
Yeah.
Right. Let's be real. Pro. I could take a poll in here. I don't think any of y'all are going to be playing on fucking LCS anytime soon or whatever the fuck, right? It's just not going to happen. So when we know that, like, that's why I focus on this. If I had an aspiration of coaching a pro team or an aspiration of ever being a pro player or whatever the hell, then maybe I would be more, my content would be more pro facing. But as it stands, like I have never, and that's why LS is good at what he does. It's because I ain't going to pretend to know what the fuck he's doing when it comes to pro play and analyze. Like, he watches the games. I ain't got time for that shit.